After years of waiting and countless trade show appearances, it is here in a lesser known body. This is 13.3-inch Kaleido 3. This is what we have all waited for. And believe it or not, it took 4 companies to make this unit: Sony Semiconductors, EINK, Linfiny, and Readmoo. If you want to know more about the joint venture established back in 2017, click the video card up above. But for now, let's thank Sony for sending us this sample and take an in-depth look at Kaleido 3 on a 13.3-inch screen. You know, I've been holding this unit in my hands for the past decade, effectively. Us at Good e-Reader, we've been surrounded by the DPT S1 and RP1 for the past 6 years respectively. This is the Linfiny shell we have waited so long for. Readmoo seems to be the only company that has ever picked this up, but let's go over what we see here. This is relatively unchanged since the DPT RP1 and subsequently the quaderno A4. We have an NFC contact there, a soft touch on the side, and everything happens up top with a USB-C reset button and a power button. The backing is changed from the DPT RP1, is not using the beveled inner circle oval. They're actually just using a completely curved back, more akin to the quaderno rather than the Sony, but it's the screen that matters, and the screen on this is everything. There's a pretty big disclaimer we have to say right now. There is no English on this device as of the date of this upload. We are at the latest possible software version as well, and unfortunately there is no English on this device. It is only in Chinese. However, we are going to be side-loading in our own content, so stay tuned. We're going to go over ebooks and of course note-taking. Let's get into note-taking first. Now, the first thing I want to say is the pen that they give you is awful. It's just a regular Wacom pen. We're not going to be using that. You can use any pen on the market. You can use the bigme pen. You can use the iFlytek pen. We're going to be sticking with the iFlytek pen for this one because it's got an eraser at the back and it's got a secondary button on the side. You will see you have 8 different colors. And you have 2 different brushes, so you can actually toggle between brushes. Let's do some coloring on the page just to show you guys how it looks on Kaleido 3 on 13.3 while we do some overlaps. So you can see the way the colors overlap each other is straight down to the individual brush strokes. There's no outside puffing or bleeding or anything like that like we've seen on some technologies like DES out of China from Weifeng. Kaleido is a lot more like you're using markers where they don't really blend or bleed or mix or anything like that. And that's by design. It's not meant to be that you write red and yellow and you get orange. That's not really the intention of it all. They would just have an orange itself. Now, funnily enough, they don't employ orange on here as one of the colors, as orange is usually harder to produce, and companies like Onyx and Bigme, for example, they do have orange, but they have deemed orange incompatible. There's also several different pens you can choose from. You can do pencil, you can do fountain pen, paintbrush, and marker. Each one is going to have its own individual attributes to it. So the way you're going to write is going to be a different feel based off of the pressure, based off of the color, based off of the actual pen you are using. Unfortunately, it does not recognize tilt for the pencil, much the same with most manufacturers. They don't do tilt. But what we're going to do now is go and write a full page for you guys and let you know our findings. I've said it once, I've said it a million times, and I'll say it again. The DPT line, the Linfiny shell, the Sony devices, the Fujitsu, whatever you want to call them, this body has the best writing feel out of any device I have ever used. It's better than Onyx, it's better than bigme, it's better than HighRead, it's better than MeBook, it is better than Remarkable, it's better than Supernote. This feels the most real. Now again, that is subjective, not objective. But subjectively speaking, in my opinion, this mimics real paper on a hard surface better than any device I have ever used, and the graphite composite tips that come with the unit, which is the same as the bigme, which is the same as the stock pen, it's all going to be the exact same thing. It feels phenomenal. Surprisingly, not surprisingly, because this has an upgraded processor compared to the other ones that use this shell, it's much quicker in everything it does, from erasing to writing and just responding. Though refresh is also significantly cut down on staining. Look how clean that looks after a full refresh. This thing is the best physically unit they have made thus far, operating system and UI aside, because it is extremely limiting, but overall hardware wise and overall feeling, it's the best of the bunch. By the way, we're not just guessing here, we did use Google Lens on the screen, so we know what at least everything says, and it does look like you have some other options like zoom modes, quick page jump, insert new page behind, delete current page. It's very simplistic, except for this one, show files side by side, which I very much like these devices integrating. What I like about this is that you can not only have your notepad on here, which is totally usable in and of itself, as you can see right there, you can go over to this side as well. And another bonus is that if I write here, I can immediately write over here and it doesn't cross over. This is very important because a lot of devices require a trigger. For example, if I'm writing over here, I cannot move over here without first tapping the screen or triggering it to understand that I want to write on this segment now. But you don't have to do that on here. You can write back and forth as you see fit, but they're not both active at the same time, which is also a good balancing act. We understand we did notes first because honestly there's not much to see here on the overall UI. You can press the button at the top, it opens up a bunch of things. We can't read any of it, but again, we used Google Translate and Google Lens to figure out what everything does. These are your color modes at the bottom. You have several different color modes: picture mode, comic mode, magazine mode. They're just arbitrary kind of setup parameters. You have your apps, you have your store. You can go over here to create your notes, which we already showed you, and you can do typing. We do want to touch on typing because it is kind of interesting. Because this does have a very big keyboard, you can take advantage of typing. So you would tap in the middle like that, and once you do, the keyboard pops up. It will start in Chinese, but you just simply click the English keyboard on there. So then you would just start typing. And it didn't miss anything. It's actually really fast. This is a really nice keyboard because it's not full size, but it fits almost your full fingers. So if you do know how to type properly, which I don't, but you would be able to get the job done. Get the job done. I don't use the proper key associated fingers, but it is very interesting how you have that ability. You can also export it via email or the computer directly. Unfortunately, it doesn't scan your unit for apps because there aren't any. Therefore, you can't use Dropbox, you can't use Google Drive, you can't use email services or anything like that. But it is nice how you can get your typing done and then export it over to your computer. If you don't like what you see, simply delete it. The rest of the things at the bottom are really no help to us either. You have personal settings, you have reading statistics, membership levels, you have all of these subscription services. Every time you click on something, it's going to ask you to pay new Taiwanese dollars. You have bookshelves, which are your side-loaded books. We'll show you ebooks in a second. And you have the home screen that we were already on, and then your store over here. These are going to be your purchase decisions. So as you click on things, you're going to be able to get into the actual books itself. You can read a little preview. It'll download it directly from the Readmoo ebook website, and then you can start reading your books. Now, you can't sideload in your own PDFs yet. it is in beta if you use the online service. So unfortunately, there's not going to be too many ways we can show you color content today, but we will show you the overall book covers. So the book covers are quite nice. This is looking very high quality. The reason being, it doesn't use a glass screen. It actually uses a plastic screen. So there's almost no reflection at all. You can see how the light gets completely diffused on this screen. It is very high quality, and another thing that really stands out to me is that there's no real gap between the screen bezel and the screen. It looks completely flat. There's no drop shadow. It doesn't seem as if the screen is far away from the surface, because it isn't. This thing does not even have a glow light layer, meaning you can't see it at night, unfortunately. But the beauty of that is that there is so little actual things and layers in the screen stack that is in front of your eyes. So with that, you have the ability to consume content at the highest possible level, physically the highest possible level. Finally, good old ebooks. Now, we're not going to spend too long on this because you don't buy a $1,000 note-taking slate to read ebooks, but can it do it? Yes. Does it look good? It looks really good. This looks very, very high quality. It's not 300 ppi, but there's other things that add to the dynamic of reading, in that this is huge. This is a massive, massive e-reader. Look at this. There's my phone right at the bottom, and here is a 6-inch e-reader in comparison to the actual screen. Look how big that is. 13.3s, if you haven't had one in your hand, it's hard to really get an idea of how big they are. They're massive. This is the biggest possible screen you can buy in the world of e-paper that isn't a display or a monitor or a 51-inch whiteboard. This is a huge e-reader, 13.3. They don't make 15s and 20s that are consumable to consume content. They're more passive devices like e-posters by Sharp or bigme monitors, etc. But this is a very good e-reading experience. There are some settings, but we're not going to get into it because it is limiting to the language barriers. You can see right here, you're going to have to use Google Translate to really get an idea of what means what, unless you read, write, and understand Chinese or live in China or are Chinese who live outside of China. There's plenty of people that can consume this because it is a Taiwanese unit. So if you have any sort of understanding of the Chinese language, then you are absolutely able to consume what this device is putting down without you having to rely on sideloading in what little capabilities of that your own content. Outside of that, the second disclaimer of this video is that you can't really do much else with this. Even if you plug this into your computer and drag and drop files, there's no file explorer. All there is personal, and then there's some books, and then there's some documents. It even tells you to go here and add documents, but because the PDF portion is in beta, you actually can't utilize or transfer over PDFs as of the date of this video. And everything else you click on either says you have to sign up with a bookstore, you have to pay for something, or it just doesn't work. And not only that, the whole step of the way, nothing is in English, as we said at the top of the hour. So in terms of trying to consume all of the content on this, even with me logged in, as you can see my email there, feel free to drop a line, even with logging into the Readmoo service here, logging into the Readmoo service in our office computers, there's just no way to really get a good handle on your content outside of the proprietary ecosystem that they lock you into on this unit. Tried and true body, Kaleido 3 13.3-inch color, and the best note-taking feel on the market by a landslide makes this something to consider if you're looking to get into color large screen note-taking. However, it's not without its massive faults in that it is one of the most restricted devices on the market. There's no glow light, and it is $1,100 USD. In the end, the Readmoo Mooink 2C is, at its final assessment, a complete miss. Despite the fact that there is no other choice in the industry currently, it is just simply too expensive, and it can't do anything. If, and I'm saying if, 13.3 inch color is of great importance to you, then this would satisfy that purpose, but outside of that, it's better to wait for another day.